Yesterday we talked of foreign affairs and national security. Today she opened her home to us and we talked about domestic policy. She and John McCain are trying to lay claim to being the agents of change. Implicit in that is criticism of the way the Bush administration has been running things. Governor John McCain and you are now talking about the GOP as a party of change. We've got a very sick economy. Tell me the three principal things you would do to change the Bush economic policies.
And you're right, our economy is weak right now, and we have got to strengthen it, and government can play an appropriate role in helping to strengthen the economy. Our 6.1% unemployment rate is unacceptable also across our nation. We need to put government back on the side of the people and make sure that it is not government solely looked at for all the solutions. For one, government has got to get out of the way in some respects of the private sector, being able to create the jobs that we need, jobs that are going to allow for the families to be able to afford health care, to be able to afford their mortgages, to be able to afford college tuition for their kids. That's got to be the principle here. Reform government, recognize that it's not government to be looked at to solve all the problems. Taxes, of course, I think is one of the most important things that government can obviously control and to help with this issue.
What you said to me at the beginning, I don't think anybody in the Bush administration would disagree with. What do you change in the Bush economic plans?
We have got to make sure that we reform the oversight also of the agencies, including the quasi-government agencies like Freddie and Fannie, those things that have created an atmosphere here in America where people are fearful of losing their homes, people are looking at job loss, people are looking at unaffordable health care for their families. We have got to reform the oversight of these agencies that have such control over Americans' pocketbooks.
So let me summarize the three things that you'd change in the Bush economic plans. 1, 2, 3.
Reduce taxes, control spending, reform the oversight and the overseeing agencies and committees to make sure that America's dollars and investments are protected.
So let me break down some of those down. You talk about spending. How much smaller would a McCain budget be? Where would you cut?
We're going to find efficiencies in every department. We have got to. There's some things that I think should be off the table. Veterans programs, off the table. You know, we owe it to our veterans, and that's the greatest manifestation that we can show in terms of support for our military, those who are in public service fighting for America, is to make sure that our veterans are taken care of and the promises that we've made to them are fulfilled.
So you take military off the table and veterans benefits. That's 20% of the budget.
Benefits should be off the table.
Do you talk about entitlement reform? Is there money you can save in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid?
I am sure that there are efficiencies that are going to be found in all of these agencies. I'm confident in that.
But agencies are not involved in entitlements. Basically, discretionary spending is 18% of the budget.
We have certainly seen excess in agencies, though, and in when bureaucrats, when bureaucracy just gets kind of comfortable going with the status quo and not being challenged to find efficiencies and spend other people's money wisely, then that's where we get into the situation that we are into today, and that is a tremendous growth of government, a huge debt, trillions of dollars of debt that we're passing on to my kids and your grandkids. It's unacceptable.
One of John McCain's central campaign arguments, tenets of his campaign, is eliminating earmarks, getting rid of them. Are you with John McCain on that?
I certainly am, and of course the poster child for the earmarks was Alaska's, what people in the lower 48 refer to as the bridge to nowhere. Of course, it was a bridge to a community with an airport in southeast Alaska, but that was excessive, and an earmark like that, not even supported necessarily by the majority of Alaskans. We killed that earmark, we killed that project.
But it's now pretty clearly documented. You supported that bridge before you opposed it, but you turned against it after Congress had basically pulled the plug on it. Do you want to revise and extend your remarks?
It has always been an embarrassment that abuse of the earmark process has been accepted in Congress, and that's what John McCain has fought, and that's what I joined him in fighting. It's been an embarrassment, not just Alaska's projects, but McCain gives example after example after example. And now, obviously, Charlie, with the federal government saying, no, the rest of the nation does not want to fund that project, you have a choice. You either read the writing on the wall and understand okay, yeah, that project's going nowhere. And the state isn't willing to fund that project. So what good does it do to continue to support something that circumstances have so drastically changed? You call an audible and you deal in reality and you move on. And Charlie, we killed the bridge to nowhere, and that's the bottom line.
You said you now agree with John McCain that earmark should be eliminated. The state of Alaska governor this year requested $3.2 million for researching the genetics of harbor seals, money to study the mating habits of crabs. Isn't that exactly the kind of thing that John McCain is objecting to?
Those requests through our research divisions in Fish and Game and our wildlife departments and our university, those research requests did come through that system, but wanting it to be in the light of day, not behind closed doors with lobbyists making deals with Congress to stick things in there under the public radar. That's the abuse that we're going to stop.
In the time I have left, I want to talk about some social issues.
Okay.
Roe v. Wade, you think it should be reversed?
I think it should, and I think that states should be able to decide that issue. I am pro-life. I do respect other people's opinion on this also, and I think that a culture of life is best for America. What I want to do when elected vice president with John McCain, hopefully be able to reach out and work with those who are on the other side of this issue, because I know that we can all agree on the need for and the desire for fewer abortions in America and greater support for adoption, for other alternatives that women can and should be empowered to embrace to allow that culture of life. That's my personal opinion on this, Charlie.
John McCain would allow abortion in cases of rape and incest. You believe in it only in the case where the life of the mother is endangered?
That is my personal opinion.
Would you change and accept it in rape and incest?
My personal opinion is that abortion allowed if the life of the mother is endangered. Please understand me on this. I do understand McCain's position on this. I do understand others who are very passionate about this issue who have a differing view.
Embryonic stem cell research. John McCain has been supportive of it.
You know, when you're running for office, your life's an open book, and you do owe it to Americans to talk about your personal opinion, which may end up being different than what the policy in an administration would be. My personal opinion is we should not create human life, create an embryo, and then destroy it for research if there are other options out there. And thankfully, again, not only are there other options, but we're getting closer and closer to finding a tremendous amount more of options, like, as I mentioned, the adult skin cell research.
Homosexuality, genetic or learned?
Oh, I don't know, but I'm not one to judge, and you know, I'm from a family and from a community with many members of many diverse backgrounds, and you know, I'm not going to judge someone on whether they believe that homosexuality is a choice or genetic, and I'm not going to judge them.
Guns. 70% of this country supports a ban on semi-automatic assault weapons. Do you?
I do not, you know, here again, life being an open book here as a candidate. I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. I believe strongly in our Second Amendment rights. That's kind of inherent in the people of my state who rely on guns for not just self-protection, but also for our hunting and for sport also. It's a part of the culture here in Alaska. I've just grown up with that.
After the sit-down interview, we walked out to the Palin backyard, a backyard with a view across this lake toward the Alaskan mountains that is typical of what makes this state so unbelievably beautiful. And as we stood there, taking in the view, Governor Palin mentioned Hillary Clinton. I saw you quoted somewhere as speaking rather admiringly of Mrs. Clinton, Senator Clinton, during the primary campaign. I think Obama should have picked her.
I think he's regretting not picking her now. I do. What determination and grit and even grace through some tough shots that were fired her way. She handled those well.
One historic candidate talking about another. And we will have more with Governor Palin later in the broadcast.